Hello everyone. Woo! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Lerato and thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Welcome to the new people who have not seen my previous videos, or people who are just joining now. Welcome. So this channel is just a very chilled channel. It's just a normal. I'm gonna be sharing normal stuff, nothing over the top. I'm just going to be sharing my life and challenges, everything, and yeah, just things that are realistic. Anyways, so those who have watched my previous video, it was a get to know me. I know a lot of you actually related to it, and there's some people who say they felt motivated by it. You know, there's some people who said they actually never thought I went through that. Yeah, I mean, life just kept going on. I worked while I was in high school. That was foundation phase. I call it foundation phase. So I didn't really say much in that video. I just gave a background on that part of my life. So now in this new video, I'm going to just continue, but I'm going to tell you guys more about me and the journey and what happened after that. So post Matric, I had to now move to another province. It's varsity time, you know, and we all know where I come from, there are no varsities. So unfortunately for some of us, you have to move. You have to move from home. So that also meant that my job was done. You know, my job was done, but that was okay. So I moved to Pretoria. I came here to study law, right? But I had to do it through a varsity. Not, do I call it a varsity? No, a college. A college. Okay, so the reason things happened the way they did was because I didn't apply the year before. So it was January, then school plans were underway. And then we all know, I don't know what's happening now, but back in the day, colleges were always available to take you. They were always available to take you. And they were so expensive. Anyways, so I had a discussion with my parents, and we're like, okay, cool, bananas. You will go to this specific college, and you will, while you wait for your semester to start with UNISA. So basically what was happening is you had to register with UNISA for your LLB. The college, would just provide classes for you, like whatever assistance you need, exam preps, etc., because UNISA is a long distance learning. Okay, no problem. But then the trick came through now. We couldn't afford it. And I had to sit down and just be like, okay, this is the situation, this is where I am right now. This is what my parents could afford, and this is just not working, right? So I should actually not be doing this preparation semester. You know, I should just wait for UNISA so I can apply and register and start my LLB. I don't need to be in this expensive college. Okay, cool, bananas. That automatically meant that I had to deregister. What a nightmare. Yo, you signed contracts, you've already, like, you are just within the things, and when you approach the office and you're like, okay, I want to deregister, ooh, you are liable for this and that, you still have to pay this and that, you still have to pay 50% of the fees, yada yada. And that time I thought I'll be deregistering. I'm done with the school. I'm just gonna leave. I'm just gonna find a job, and to wait for the new semester to begin. Yeah, okay, cool bananas. I moved from the commune where I was living at. It was just opposite the college. I moved and then I had to find a cheaper place. Found a place through the girls that I went to school with, to the college with. And we shared a flat. It was the four of us. So we shared a 4-bedroom flat. A 2-bedroom flat, meaning 2 in each room. Okay, that worked. The finances went a bit down. Then I did what I knew best. I went to the mall and I went to look for a job. So my first mall visit, I didn't even have a CV. I just said to myself, I need to go see, number one, how far this mall is. How long is it going to take me to walk to the mall? And what shops are there so that I can decide where I want to apply. Okay, got to the mall. We went around. Just had a look at the shops, went in, and funny enough, one of the shops we went into, I just kept looking and they were like, can we help you? Are you looking for something? I was like, no, I'm not looking to buy anything. And then the person that was talking to me asked me, oh, okay, so what is your plan? I'm like, no, I'm actually looking for a job, but I'm trying to look around to see where I can drop my CV, And he went to his boss, the manager. I think he was seated by the pay point. And the manager called me and he was like, I hear you looking for a job. I'm like, yeah. And then he says, no, we've been looking for people. We're looking for 2 people. This is the job description. So if you are interested, please email us your CV. I was like, oh, okay, great. Then I left. The trip at the mall was done. So because I just felt like, okay, maybe this is it. I mean, maybe this is what's meant to be. Right? And then I left, went back to the flat. I emailed my CV. They responded. They called me in. I just had a short interview. It was retail. And honestly, I believe character, personality, and yeah, man, just a few things. They actually work, especially at retail. I mean, I was already employed. They liked the fact that I had experience as young as I was. They were happy about the fact that Monday to Friday I had a job, school holidays I had a job. So I was looking for a similar arrangement to say, I'm going to be registering with you, Nisa. So I need a job, but I'm going to need days off where there's classes available. I needed to be flexible. But obviously, I'm not asking for too much. It needs to work for the employer and for myself. Okay, no problem. I was a part-time employee, so that was not a big deal. They already had their permanent stuff. Okay, cool bananas. And then I started my job there. It was quite cool. So what would happen in a day? I'd wake up in the morning, walk to the mall. The shop opened at 9 o'clock, so we had to be there at least 8:45. So I would leave the flat and I would walk to work. Okay, that was my routine. That was my everyday routine. The toughest part of it was just Fridays and weekends. I think, if I remember correctly, Fridays the shop used to close at 9 o'clock at night. That was hectic. That was so hectic. But yeah, we survived, pulled through. So now I'm gonna bring back what I said in my previous video when I spoke about my first job. Even after that, I still could not really build a solid social life because people were going to school on Monday to Friday. The people I lived with went to school Monday to Friday. I went to work, right? And then they'd plan weekends. Okay, this is what we are doing. We're visiting who, we're going out, wara wara. But I knew that I'm needed the most on weekends because I had this arrangement of when classes are available, I need to be excused from work. So weekends I'm there. The only time I was not working on weekends is when I had Saturday classes, and those were they were quite hectic. It would sometimes be the whole day, then I come back, it's assignments, I'm tired. Everybody has already started with their plans, and man, I just got used to the whole situation. That's how I lived my life. Okay, then retail. I worked for that shop from I think for about 2 years, 2 or 2.5 years. Yeah. And I left. The reason I left was I wanted to try something else. I wanted to try out a much bigger shop. I am a new environment as well. So I applied at another retail store, but it was in Woodlands this time around. So the retail job that I worked first, the one I was just talking about now, was in mainland. Okay, so now I moved to Woodlands, but I still remain at the same place where I lived. Cool bananas, same process, but now I was not walking to work anymore. I took a taxi to work. Okay, I went to Woodlands. I didn't like it. Woodlands was quiet. It was very quiet, and yeah, man, I don't know, it was just not for me. It was, yeah, but I worked, and then I applied for a transfer. I asked to go back closer to my flat, that is going back to mainland. Right? So fortunately, the shop I worked for had I worked for the adult store. They had a kids store. I was like, this is it. I mean, after my experience with here and my experience at the first shop that I worked at, I definitely want to go to a kids store. Not everybody was interested in that environment, but another part of my favorite during the first retail job was they actually had a section for baby stuff. Baby stuff and few stuff for toddlers, and shoes and stuff. But they had adorable sets, those little shoes, the soft ones, man. They would be like a 0 to 3 months. They would come with a little t-shirt. At some point I went back years later and I went to buy it for my daughter after I had a baby. But anyway, so that was my section. I loved that section. So I was like, oh, cool bananas. The store that I'm applying to, they've got a position at a kids store. Why not? I left. Okay, back to mainland now. I worked at the kiddies store. I loved it, man. I enjoyed it. Just dressing the mannequins. There was a lot of work. Retail is a lot of work, but I feel like you just have to have things that you like, it keeps you going. So I liked it. I was obsessed with babies. I was obsessed with kids. So just FYI, I'm my mother's only child. So growing up, I always wanted to have a sibling. Like I nagged my mother. I nagged for a little sibling. It never happened. So I just became this person. Every time I see a baby, I'll just be all over them. I just babysit for no reason. I just got myself in things that involved babies and kids. All the time, I was just in the mix. Okay, cool banana. So I worked for a while. But I had experience in computer and just basic admin stuff, and when I deregistered from the college that I spoke about in the beginning of this video, because we were liable to pay a portion of the fees, I used that money to attend a short course, and the short course was an administration course, office administration course. I did that, and yeah, man, past time, I did it. It worked for me. So I was over retail at some point, and I was just like, let me update my CV, let me now try and start looking into working in an office. I mean, I can operate computers, I can do admin work, I've got experience from where I come from. I can just do a whole lot of things. So I'm just gonna try my luck. Okay, cool banana. Applied, and eventually I got a call. I got a call to come to an interview. It was a small firm it was in Sunnyside, Pretoria. Really, really like a small accounting. I just said firm, but yeah, it's still a firm. Even though it's still small, it's still a firm. So they did accounting there. I went for the interview. Check. Ah, man, I was just the girl for the job. I was the girl for the job. The people who interviewed me were happy, and I was meant to start after serving my notice at the kiddies retail store. This was it was a bit emotional, it was exciting. I just felt like, oh, I'm leaving my comfort zone, I'm leaving my little babies, I'm leaving that environment where just seeing those little people brighten up my day. Now I'm going into an office space, I'm gonna be dealing with adults day and night. Okay, why am I saying night? But you know what I mean. From morning to whatever time. Okay, then I went there, started my first day. Ooh, drama. My first day. Remember, I mentioned that I used to walk to work. So now I live in the mainland area. I have to go to Sunnyside for work. Okay. Now it's a taxi and it's such a long distance. I start work at 8 and I knock off at 5. Ooh, okay. So when I started the job, I remember it was in winter. It was in winter, which meant that it got dark quite quick. Yeah. Okay, cool. That's me. I went to the job. First day. Yeah, it's my second day when the drama happened. First day, knocked off a bit earlier because my manager was like, you need to find your way around transport. You need to understand how things work, how you're gonna get home, and how long it takes you to get home. So I'm not gonna let you go at 5. I'm gonna let you go earlier. Okay, cool. I went earlier. Day 2. There I am. On my way from work. Ooh. So where we lived, we had a normal long road. The taxi would drop you off at a certain point, then you would walk around. It was a distance to get to the flat, right? And then there was a shortcut that we used the whole time when we lived there. When we went to the shopping complex, we always used that shortcut. You just go through. Yeah, man. Yeah, it was a shortcut. I'm sure you guys have an idea of what a shortcut would look like. Okay, so we always knew that when it's dark, the shortcut is not advisable. Like, we'd go around, all around. We would not go through the shortcut. Okay, cool. So this is me. I knock off at 5. The taxi was quite quick. So it was around 5:30 to 6. It wasn't really dark. Like, you could see that it would start getting dark, but it was not dark. So that time also fell within the shortcut route. I mean, it's not dark yet, people are knocking off. Who busy, Okay, cool. Got off the taxi, went through the shortcut. It was the most traumatic time of my life. It was so traumatic. Till this day, I can never forget it. I dealt with it, but I can never forget it. I got off the taxi, I had my bag, and then I had my phone in my hand, right? As I was walking through the shortcut, this man came from nowhere and he attacked me, right? And in my head, I'm thinking, I've got a phone in my hand. This man saw this phone and this is what he wants. I immediately did this. I gave him the phone. He took the phone from my hand, right? And he didn't go, and then he pushed me onto the ground. Okay? Then I was wearing glasses. So my eyesight was quite bad. It was quite bad. It would either be I'm wearing contact lenses or I'm wearing glasses. So I remember the reason why I wore glasses, it was because I think I had pink eye, or I had something happening and I could not wear my contact lenses. I had to wear my glasses. I hated glasses. And not because of how they make you look or appearance issues. No, it was not that. It was just that my eyesight was so bad that when I took off my glasses, I couldn't see from far. Not even far. I couldn't see. Ooh, story for another day. So when this guy pushed me onto the ground, my glasses fell off. That immediately meant that I could not see this guy's face. So when I fell onto the ground, I fought so hard. And when I tried to scream, he tried to cover my mouth, right? But because I was fighting. I fought so hard. I never fought that much in my life. I fought so hard. I didn't even care if I was getting hurt. I fought so hard. And when he tried to cover my mouth, somehow his hand went into my mouth. His hand went into my mouth, and as I was just fighting and fighting, I could hear voices of people approaching. Then that guy stood up, took my phone, and he ran off. So that is how I was saved on that day. Those people came, they helped me get up, helped me get my glasses, they just helped me. Yeah, man, and then they walked me to the flat. I didn't know those people. I was just crying. It was bad. I was bleeding through my mouth, actually. When he put his hand into my mouth, he hurt me down in my throat. So yeah, man, I was just bleeding, and I got to the flat. I bathed, and I remember the next morning I had to go to see a doctor. And remember, now this is day 2 at my job. I'm trying to impress. I'm trying to deliver. I said I'm a hard worker. I'm consistent. And then all of a sudden on day 2, I've got issues. And I went to the doctor. I then had to go report my phone. Went to the police station, did that whole process. I got so much medication. I got antibiotics. I got a whole bunch of painkillers. It was so sore. I remember I was eating yogurt. I was just eating soft stuff. I could feel that my throat was still swollen. Anyways, there's the bad news, there's the drama. And it actually affected me so much that I felt like I don't want to leave the flat anymore. I felt so unsafe. It's just, down the road where the shortcut was. And I felt like I couldn't even identify this person. Like, if I were to bump into this person again, I would not be able to say that is him, and another part that actually freaked me out was, what if he still continued to look for me? I mean, what if he wanted to get rid of me because I saw him and I described this incident that happened? I was so scared. I was scared for my life. The doctor booked me off. I think they gave me 2 days off. And I scanned through everything I sent to my new job. And yeah, man, somehow everybody just understood, everybody was just so worried. They kept checking on me. Like, it was obvious that I was not playing tricks on anyone. It was really an unfortunate incident that happened, and it really did affect me. Hi, Rosie. Yo, okay. Then yeah, man, got over my issues, and then I resumed my duties. I went to work, and from that day on, I never wore glasses ever. I promise you, even if I had pink eye, I would not wear my glasses. I would absolutely not wear my glasses. So yeah, man, this whole glass situation is a story for another day. I will come back to explain what I did to fix my eyesight problem. Yeah, man, but that whole procedure was motivated by the trauma that I went through. And yeah, so yes, I think I spoke too long today. Yeah, man, then I worked there. I did my office job. I was working at the front desk. I was a receptionist. I was doing all the admin. Yeah, man, phone calls, everything. But I learned a lot at that company. They did everything tax, they did BEE certificates, they did like CIDB registrations, they did, there was a lot. I learned a lot there, and I was thrown into the lion's den. I like saying this because that really shapes you up. It shapes up your character. It just builds you so strong. You end up being so solid in what you do, So I learned everything. And yeah, man, to a point where I could actually do things on my own. But I never got promoted because I only had the certificate for office admin. So what am I being promoted for? I was still studying, but it really didn't bother me because it also gave me an opportunity to study. I paid for my fees. Yeah, man, there was just a lot happening. But yeah, I did my LLB while I was there. Exams, you put in leave. I used to even study at the office on weekends. It was quiet. It was a good place. So yeah, that's my second job. I think I need a new video for my next job. Because this is too long. So yes, summary. I mentioned that I did tax stuff, CIDB stuff, BEE certificates. I think they call it COIDA, the one you do at the Department of Labor. I did those registrations as well. I also did books. They taught me to do books. Yes, capture all the slips, capture all the expenses, do your VAT returns. I captured everything. Yeah, man, I did well at that office. I did very well at that office. But obviously, there's a time for everything. There's a season for everything. That chapter had to end, and I had to move on to something else. So yes, that's it. I'm so sorry for those who felt a bit awkward with my story when I got mugged, when I got attacked. I'm so sorry I went too deep into it. But to those who enjoyed watching this video, including those traumatic parts, yeah, man, that's it. And yeah, to those who are just stuck between going to varsity, looking for a job, those who have financial issues. It is possible. It's hard. It requires a lot of discipline, but it is possible. You can really go after what you want. You just need to know what you want. You need to actually stand firm and stand on your nose, and also understand that monate wa lefatshe ha o fele. My great grandma used to say this. Monate wa lefatshe ha o fele. All the parties I missed, all the events that I missed, I could go to some of them at a later stage in life. It was actually great because I went to them, earning much more, just having a lot of my own money. So yeah, man, at some point I felt like life is passing me by, watching my peers, looking at how they're living their lives, just people who got allowances for everything, people who didn't need to work, they had all the time in the world to go have fun, ne ke ba duma, but ne ke ba duma ka ntho ela ya hore, oh man, if life was simpler for me, it means I would have had, the same situation, the same living arrangements. But Khubaduma is not like envy, where I felt like I need to live this life. No, it was just actually there are two types of people. Well, I'm saying two because I'm exposed to two. In this instance is myself and my peers who were blessed enough to have allowances for everything. Their parents were affording, some even had cars, so it was just a thing of, okay, life can really get better, it's not like this for everyone. So yeah, man. Woo. I think that's a handful, but thank you guys for watching this video. I'm going to come back with something better, but also I remember I did give a disclaimer. This is just me sharing normal stuff, sharing my life, so I don't think there's gonna ever be anything over the top, but what you're going to learn or hear from this channel is just how I grew, from that girl who was in high school and working to this girl that I am now. I mean, I'm an admitted attorney. I've started my own business, so yeah, man, I think it's a journey that's worth sharing, and I know there are people who the stories would touch, the stories would move, the stories would motivate. And yeah, man, it's the reason why I'm doing this. So let's just connect to the side, let's relate. If you have any comments or any questions, please do drop them down there, and I will try as best as I can to answer you and just to provide whatever information you might require. So yes, thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and bye.